My name is Wayne LeBlanc, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit this morning about fair housing issues, kind of point some things out to you that you need to understand about fair housing, dispel some myths that might keep you out of trouble, and also point out some things that you should do when you run into a fair housing problem. Now, one of the things that we need to understand about fair housing is the tags that we put on it. And the first tag that you need to get off of fair housing is that it is a racial issue. Okay? Do not put a racial tag on fair housing. Fair housing is not a racial issue. So we get hung up in this thing about this race stuff, and it's not a racial issue. I want you to change your outlook and your perspective about fair housing, what fair housing is. Fair housing is a protection issue. Okay? Fair housing is about you protecting your customer from anything and everything they're going to run across in a real estate transaction. You protect them from buyers, you protect them from homeowners, you protect them from other real estate agents, you protect them from lenders, insurance companies, home inspectors. That's what fair housing is all about, protecting your customer. But for years and years, we got hung up on this one issue, race. You know, fair housing is a racial issue. Well, there's another mistake in our judgment. One, you don't even understand what that term means. You don't know what racial discrimination means. And I see everybody sitting here thinking, going like, oh, we all know what that means. That's discrimination against blacks, Asians, Hispanics, Native Americans, four-eyed, green-skinned Martians. You're absolutely wrong. That is not the definition of racial discrimination. When lawmakers sat down and coined the term racial discrimination, it meant discrimination against anything that was not a white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant male. Okay? Racial discrimination was discrimination against people who were Italian, who were Irish, Polish, Slovakian, from any of the Eastern European countries. You were discriminated against based on your race. Okay? That is the original definition of racial discrimination. Now today we have an accepted and understood definition of racial discrimination that covers everybody. And since it is accepted and understood, it will hold up in court. Okay? But your first four protected classes: race, color, religion, national origin. I call your attention to color. Okay? Color discrimination means discrimination against people of color: blacks, Asians, Hispanics, Native Americans, four-eyed, green-skinned Martians. So if you think that the only time you have to be concerned about fair housing is when you get a customer that happens to be, let's say, that four-eyed, green-skinned Martian, and then you go grab that little pamphlet and say, well, I can't say this, I can't use that word, I can't use this comment, well, folks, you're missing the boat. You're way off track. First thing you need to do is take this racial tag off fair housing. And let me just give you a little bit of an example here. Federal government recently released the statistics for all the discrimination complaints lodged nationwide for 2006. And so let me just point a little something out to you. 39% of all fair housing complaints filed in 2006 was for racial discrimination. 1% was for color discrimination, which basically says we don't even know what that is. Religion, 2%. National origin, 14%. That's a problem. Familial status, which is discrimination against families with children, was also 14%. Sex, which is discrimination against women, 10%. But 40% of all fair housing cases lodged nationwide in 2006 was for discrimination against people with disabilities. Kind of makes you think there's something else out there you ought to be concerned about. Do not get hung up on race. Fair housing is not a racial issue. It's the problem you're going to see the most. It's the most predominant. But that is a problem that takes care of itself. Okay? Those four-eyed, green-skinned Martians have gotten awfully smart. And they're going to have your lunch. Okay? Don't get hung up on this. The two of the classes that need your attention, you need to pay attention to the most, is familiar status. That's discrimination against families with children under the age of 18 and the handicapped. These are the two groups that we have the least amount of knowledge of, and these are the two groups that are going to get you in the most trouble. So I'm going to try and give you point some things that you need to be aware of when dealing with these two groups. One of the things I want to point out to you, when you're dealing with fair housing issues, you need to keep your wits about you, okay? We spend a lot of time trying to build relationships with our customers. You know, it's kind of like courting somebody. You know, you're bringing them flowers and candies and everything, and sooner or later you both make a decision and you're going to tie the knot. So you're standing at the altar, you're taking your vows, and then you're getting ready to exchange rings. And as soon as you put the ring on the other person's finger, they turn into Frankenstein on you. And you kind of get caught off guard. You're going like, whoa, what? You have to keep your wits about you. And don't let yourself get caught off guard. Even regardless of how hard you work to try and establish a relationship with a customer, always keep your wits about you, because that customer can turn into Frankenstein on you real quick. National origin. We see a trend here. This is kind of disturbing because in 2005, this was 5%. It's going up to 14% in only a year. What is the trend? We're starting to see that people with Arab-sounding last names are starting to be discriminated against. We're starting to see people who have a last name like Muhammad or Sharif or something like that are all of a sudden starting to have a problem. They're being discriminated against. You need to keep aware of that. Discrimination against national origin is a violation of federal law. Sex. This is another statistic that has gone up. Last year in 2005, this was only 5%. Discrimination against women is on the rise. There's a problem there. So if you're a buyer's agent and you have a woman that you're taking out, you're showing houses to, you need to keep your wits about you, and you need to make sure you don't overlook anything. But familiar status and the handicap are really two of the biggest issues that you're going to run across. Now, let me just give you an example. What you do when you run across an act of discrimination is very important. Understand that you cannot walk away from any act of discrimination that you run across. You must act, okay? And your actions have to be immediate, on the spot. Okay? Understand now that the National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics and the Commissioner's rules both say that a licensee has a responsibility to protect both sides of the party, both sides of the transaction, both the buyer and seller. It does not make any difference what side of the transaction you're on. If you see something going wrong on the other side, you have a responsibility to announce it, make sure the other person's aware of it, protect your customer. That's in our Code of Ethics, that's in the Commissioner's rules. You have a responsibility to advise a non-client of anything that will materially or adversely affect a real estate transaction. So you have to bring it up. But understand your actions have to be immediate. You can't sit around and wait on it. You can't say, this doesn't sound right to me. I'm going to go back to the office and kick my feet up on the desk and drink a cup of coffee and think about it. If you do, you lost. Okay? You say, I'm so stressed out over this, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to sleep on it tonight, and tomorrow morning I'll take a fresh approach to it. No. If you wait for tomorrow, you lost. Your actions have to be on the spot. So let me give you an example. You have a customer. Say it's you got a house on the market for sale. You get an offer in on this house. And the people who are buying the house, let's say their name is Muhammad Ali. And you present the offer to your homeowner, and your homeowner says, whoa, is this person an American citizen? I don't want to sell my house to an Arab. What do you do? Well, the first thing you do is you advise your customer that you can't do that. You advise your customer that under federal fair housing laws, they can't discriminate against somebody based on their national origin, the color of their skin, or what country they came from. You can't do it. Now, if that customer insists on the